Now we have the first chance speaker, Maria Glibetic from the University of Belgrade, and the title of her speech is Determining Nutritional Criticalities, Deficiencies and Overconsumption in Those at Risk of Poverty. Thank you, Maria.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. We're now, as Alessandra says, starting with the presentation of some results. Almost we're into the project, so many results are still under the analysis. But before we start, I would like really to give my gratitude and thanks to the coordinators of the project, not only involving me and my group from Serbia, but also giving a chance to Central and Eastern Southern European countries to be involved in the research. From the previous research, we've been able that there is a big gap of knowledge in both joint initiatives as well as the New Age project from the data coming from this part of the world. So thanks to both coordinators, we were involved in this project, helping and also involving the data generated from Serbia. So I really would like to say that we are all aware of many of the nutritional criticalities from the systematic literature review that are published from a very low and low-income population in Europe. Europe is enlarging. Now we are hope for Serbia that will become a member of European Union in a few years. But also there's a lot of Central and Eastern European as the new members that they do have nutritional habits that they are different. Not only nutritional, but data about their dietary pattern is not very well known. And we could see from literature review that there are 125 million of people at with a very low income that put them in a disadvantaged position of not only from nutritional but from many other socio-economic inclusion criteria. However, this project addresses a group or population of Europe that is at risk of low income. So there are not too many data about the population. They do have maybe opportunity to food, but they also have some main characteristic of very low income population, like socioeconomic status, like low education, low approach to healthy food because of many criticalities socioeconomic that affect this population. We, as a European Union, we are at risk of losing this population because we do not have a knowledge about a huge population that is at extreme risk to become a very low income. So this project was addressing the population at risk of the poverty that I will call them in short a ROP population, and compare the data with affluent population, actually with the middle income population. Everything is scientifically based on the Eurostat's information. Determination of all of information what we have were done based on the science, based of using not only open research but available from peer-reviewed journals, but also using the gray literature sources under the same quality criteria as the open access literature. So inclusion of gray literature was very important because of some countries having a valuable scientific data for nutrition and for other factors that we were interested, but published in other language than English, published in the journals that they are not available to different sources of information. So I will just go fast through some of the information. What we have found from the beginning of the project is that what are the criteria in the term of low intake and high intake of the low income population in Serbia based on the systematic reviewing of the literature. So many unhealthy dietary habits and unbalanced food diet. Combination of those unbalanced food intake plus the unhealthy dietary habits is really, the consequences are presented here in terms of a very low vitamin intake, very low mineral intake, some of them very important for the communal cardiovascular diseases, high sodium intake, low fiber intake, low nutrient density score with a high energy density score diet, and very high total energy intake from the fat, especially from saturated fat and sugar. So this is what we have found by systematic and confirmed with a systematic literature review. However, in order to create and do the nutritional research in chance countries defined by our protocol, we had to find the data what is actually typical for the population that is specific for the risk of poverty. So chance nutritional survey is designed, followed by that literature reviewed, and includes the list of 34 critical nutrients that we have been followed. So before we did a nutritional survey, we decided which country should represent Europe. This is a small project. It was not big in the funding, so we decided that we have representative from ethnic population that is one of the first highest ethnic population in Europe, from United Kingdom, South Asian group. We have a Northern Europe representative, Finland, with a different kind of dietary habits. We had Lithuania as a CE representative. We had Italy as the representative of South Europe, also European country, as well the country from West Balkan, southern European country. By using the Eurostat data and definition, we decided what are the population at the highest risk of poverty. From UK, that was the elderly, for both gender. For Finland was the also elderly. From Lithuania, it was the adult population that showed the highest risk of the poverty. In Italy was the adult female population, and in Serbia was the adult population for both genders. So the main objective of this nutritional survey was to specify or to discover the main nutritional criticalities specific for the raw population in Europe, to describe the dietary pattern of raw population, and to identify the foods based on all of this data that is suitable for reformulation and that is often consumed by the raw population. So those are a very big objective done in order to justify the research for further formulation of the food in a chance project. So our objective was to converge, to transfer those nutritional discover criticalities into target for the new food formulation. And this is a chance methodology. It is a very novel approach. So first we have evidence base about the nutritional pattern of the raw population, and we transfer all of this knowledge by evidence to technologists and to the other partners involved in the project. So by chance methodology, we have, as I have mentioned, the chance country where the survey was conducted. You can see the number of the participants from raw population and from affluent population, as well the data that we were getting out: anthropometric data on the physical activity, nutrient intake data done by 2 times 24 hours recall, and also applied by the best harmonized food composition database done by Eurofir criteria. Dietary pattern was assessed by FFQ that was harmonized and validated for the country of the study, as that comparison between the raw and affluent population was done with the goal of recommendation for nutritionally enhanced and affordable chance food development. Also, I have to emphasize based on the science. So those are the nutrients that we have analyzed with the chance nutritional survey. I have mentioned 36 nutrients, macronutrient, vitamins, minerals that we have found from systematic literature review that they are criticalities for the healthy diet of low-income population. Food consumption dietary pattern are studied using the following design of food groups. So I'm just not going into detail, hope that you'll be able to scan and read the slide. So I will just present fast the country-specific data. For example, in Finland, that we've been studying the adults of both gender. Our food consumption analysis in raw population show that low income, the raw population in Finland, elderly, less than affluent population is eating cheese, fruits and berries, fresh vegetables, whole meat, cow cuts, and drinking a tea. More in terms of overconsumption is eating boiled vegetables, eggs, butter, different blends, and sugar. This is a country-specific FFQ. So this is the FFQ that is adapted for the country dietary habits. Below the recommended daily intake, you can see the number of micronutrients. Over the recommended, you can see the total fats comparing to the affluent population, and the fats coming from a saturated fatty acids. What is really strong, all of those are significantly data that was achieved by analysis, but the fiber intake was lower than recommended in almost 75% of the senior in both groups. So the fiber was very critical for both groups. In Italy, that we studied the adult females, we can see the similar data emerging, that the highest contribution to total energy in both groups was attributed to the cereal and grain food group, but unfortunately from refined white flour. Mean contribution of total energy was significantly from the dairy in the raw population, and the folate intake was very critical vitamin for low intake for both populations, as well with the number of nutrients below RDA and over RDA for the Italian population. For Lithuania, situation is different. I will show later on what is specific, unique for all of the countries. Raw women had a significantly lower intake of dietary fibers comparing to the affluent population. In Serbia, we can see a similar situation to Italy, that the highest contribution of total energy in both groups were attributed to the white flour, carbohydrate, and this is very significantly higher in the raw than in affluent, but still is overeating of the products based on the white flour. Those are the number of nutrients and micronutrients that they are different between those two populations. United Kingdom, we studied the South Asian ethnic groups, and we have found that both genders are taking, their diet is characterized by high intake of fat, much higher than recommendation, with the differences in nutrient intake as well in food consumption between the two compared groups. So, common to all of the country, I'm just presenting data that now they are emerging, that all studied chance countries show that the raw population group is taking more fats, and more fats than recommended, and more fats that is sourced from saturated fatty acids. The biggest deficiency that was found in all, it was the fiber intake. Fiber intake is dramatically lower than what is actually the daily recommended value, up to between 25 to 35 grams in all groups, studies specific for the raw population. So this is some of the data that we are now analyzing and preparing for the publication and for the reports. But as I have mentioned, we analyzed the dietary pattern, but also we had information about the physical activity, anthropometric measurements, and we wanted to see how this is correlated with, for example, with anthropometric measurements. And we can see the anthropometric measurements are depending from country to country. So there are no differences in anthropometric parameters between the raw and affluent group, but I just would like to emphasize that by systematic literature review, low-income population is significantly, anthropometric measurements and body mass index is significantly higher than people in the population with the normal income. This is characteristic. So we have here a situation with a population at risk of poverty that is still country specific, showing that there is a lot of influence of traditional, of genetics to anthropometric measurements, but also I will show you that we are in chance of losing this population when it comes to if their dietary pattern keep changing towards the low income dietary pattern, they will pretty soon will be have the characteristic of low income and obese population. So for Serbia, we have, and this is something specific for Central and Eastern Europe, we have nearly 50% of both population that they were overweight, with significantly higher proportion of participants had obesity that is over the 25 body mass index. For UK in ethnic groups, there is no significant difference between two studied groups. In Italian, we have significantly higher percentage of underweight subjects in the raw population. And this was the only underweight by the body mass index in Italian studies. In Lithuania, we have a similar situation like in Serbia, that significantly higher proportion of participants from raw has obesity, comorbidity risk level 2. So all of this data were the background for giving a recommendation for the foods to be developed. So our recommendation were that we should improve the nutritional quality by selecting familiar, commonly consumed traditional ethnic ingredients, so not changing dietary habits too much. Improving the content of majority of essential micronutrients, some that we have found that they're very important by systematic review and by analysis of the questionnaire. Also taking care of optimizing the bioavailability of micronutrients to selection of appropriate raw material and processing mechanism, by increasing dietary fiber content through utilization of whole grains, fruits and vegetables in the formulation, reducing content of sodium and sugar, reducing content of saturated fatty acids, with an increase in polyunsaturated fatty acids because their intake of polyunsaturated fatty acids was much lower. And taking care that we improve sensory quality of increase just because of better shelf life, affordability, and also for taking care of consumer acceptance. So possible corrections were given through food groups. I can just mention the one in a diary that we have suggested that we should have a product in a dairy food group that has enhanced protein, calcium, lower salt, lower total fat and saturated fatty acids, but if it's possible to increase polyunsaturated fatty acids. So all of this give us a chance to develop actually a chance score methodology with aim how to choose the right food for the reformulation. We studied the variables that you can see the list of 39 consumed foods. We end up after the questionnaire, a list of main nutritional criticalities in form of micro and micronutrients. And we created a coefficient of importance to set the nutrient criticalities and target nutrients for development of the new chance foods. Scoring system was developed that took in account a percentage of daily nutrient intake that is contained in 100 grams of each food, scored with a scale, either positive or negative, from 1 to 5, and multiplied with the coefficients of importance, nutritional score, and then the co-score that was very important. So maybe it looks very complicated, but once it's in the set, it was very easy for us to give us actually design to give us the chance to choose the right food for the reformulation. So the food with the highest total chance score in each group were identified as a possible chance food suitable for improvement and for applying the chance recipe. So this is just an example in a different food group. So application of the scoring system led to the following proposal: to modify the highly consumed bakery product with the fiber-rich ingredients and using the whole wheat bran, or a soya product for changing the highly consumed foods, we can actually improve the low intake of fiber, aside of other many nutrients. I'm finished. So in a food group of fruits, we choose the berries because they're rich in fiber, vitamin C, folate, iron, carotenoids, and they had, by our systematic applying change score, the highest change score. And they are eaten in many different forms in many of the change studied countries. In the vegetables, the vegetable group, tomato has the highest change score, and it has been used in many different forms in the recipes. So in a meat product, we find a highly consumed meat product among the raw participants was the cold cuts. It was a ham that is fatty and very salty, and we use this ham as the possible correction of fat-soluble vitamin suitable for reducing the sodium content, and the liver was found to be one of the ingredients that could bring the enrichment of the ham with the fat-soluble vitamins and some minerals that raw population needed. In a milk product, it was the soft cheese that was very suitable food for reducing fats, increasing polyunsaturated fatty acids and protein content. So another question that we were thinking, and we solved it, is that we have to introduce this nutritionally correct, enhanced, and affordable food, but at the same time we have to take care of not changing the dietary habits on the raw population. So how we achieve this? By targeting the highly consumed food among the raw population in all countries, that we have found that pizza and sandwiches are actually the highest consumed food in this population that can bring and can have impact on the dietary pattern in the raw population. So this was, I hope that I was able to show just a part and to glance you to nutritional data, but many of the messages of chance results will emerge from the publication.